Question of the day. What is your favorite slowed down themed game? Now what I mean by that is a game that the theme of it is something that would take place much faster than what you're doing. You know, defusing a bomb probably doesn't take many hours, especially a time bomb. Let me look at a couple more right here, see if I can get it, because obviously the one we're talking about today is one that is a slowed down moment, slice of life in time. Some of the street fighting combat games, wrestling games especially, are this. They're slowed down versions of what you're playing. Because today we're taking a look at a game called Super Pinball Ramp It Up, which this is the sequel to the Super Pinball, I think that's what it's called. You've already read the comments, you know. This is a sequel to the original by WizKids and Jeff Engelstein, but this is a new one with 4 new maps. It is a roll and write, but it does this thing where it takes playing a pinball game and slows it down to where it's a roll and write game. And the question is, does it do it well? And if you've seen the first one, you've seen the reviews and the stuff on the front of the box, you probably have a hint, yeah, it does. But let's take a look at the sequel, see what it does. Standalone, not in the sense that you need it. That's why it's a sequel. So here is Super Pinball. My goodness, its name just Super Pinball Ramp It Up. Now these are 2 of the boards. This is the Pin Pals. This is a 2-player. It's kind of a co-op tag team one here, but there's also Heist or High Roller Heist, and then a Top Speed one or something like that. It's a, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It is Top Speed. So 4 different boards here, including one with the wrestling, which you know I'm an old school wrestling mark. Abraham Lincoln is definitely one of the characters, and that's an incredible idea. Anyway, but here's the main goal down here. Let's see if I can fit this on the map just a little bit here on the screen. Anyway, I'll zoom around if I have to. Point being is that you have Go for Gold here. And Go for Gold, it is a old school, just typical, basic pinball board, and it's great because it kind of eases you into the game, but it still has a lot of difficult choices. So let's start with the main part of the game. Down here, you've got your, you know, the pullback thing. Ball starts here. So you put your ball out here. Then you'll roll the 2 dice. You will choose one number to use. So let's say we use a 4. So the way it works is you'll place your marker into the phase here. You'll then choose a number. So as we start, you're going to cascade down just like you would. Imagine pinball in super slow motion. So we are now in this section here, which means we can hit anything we're available to hit. So currently, because in order to hit this yellow arrow means you have to have a yellow arrow to hit this, but we can hit the bumpers currently. So the bumpers would be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a 4, we have a 3. Now the way this works is, if we choose to use a bumper, let's say we use the 3. So we choose to use the bumper for our roll. You'd mark it off here. We'd give ourselves a point by going up here to the top, marking off the first point, because that's how bumpers work. Then, normally you have to cascade to the next issue, personal re-roll, or roll again. Normally you would have to move down to the next area divided by these bars. But if you're in the bumpers, as a special rule, it is if the next one, the next term is, let's say if it would have been a 5 or 6, we could have chosen to mark a 5 off and keep going, ba-boom, 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 bouncing around these bumpers until finally we can't. Once all of them are filled, you can erase all 12 and obviously fill them up again for points, but each one's worth a point. Now down here, there's the thing that makes the bumpers worth 3 points per, which is pretty sweet if you can time that out right to get that bonus. Now, as you fall down a little further, you've got some different options here. You've got these paddles on the side here and here. The way these work is this is a 1-2 slot, which means let's just say we take the 1, you would mark off this whole slot, which means you couldn't choose the 2 later. You get the point, and then once all of these are full, you would get one of the bonuses here. Things like multi-ball, which will play with 2 of these. Flipper pass, which allows you to flipper pass. Flipper pass means you can, it doesn't matter if it's yellow or red, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then all the different bonuses there. Now, as we get down to here, into the bumper section, the flipper section, I should say, this is when the game becomes really pinball. So you're going to now choose, let's say I choose the 1, okay? So I choose the 1, which means I'm using my yellow bumper, excuse me, I keep saying that, I'm using my yellow flipper to flick the ball back up. The way it works is you can go anywhere higher, and then you can definitely hit the things with the yellow arrow. So if I chose, then I could go here, hit this one, or I can choose to enter Fool's Folly, which takes me up to the top here. So now, as I'm in Fool's Folly, the next turn comes around, I could choose to use the 4 or the 6 to either do the flume loop, which is to come around here and continue getting bonuses for each time you loop. Or I could choose to cascade down with a 1 or 2, 3 or 4, 5 or 6. If that didn't work, I could continue following down here to the falls. If that didn't work, you can continue falling, keep falling, until eventually you're going to run out of spaces you can use down here at the flippers, and you're going to have to lose the ball. Now granted, there are benefits to losing that ball. Here is because you can get 2 points per filled in yellow box, and that would be a whole lot. Once you've lost the ball and as you start your next round, you'll erase anything in a dotted line, and you'll start again. Now you might end your game at a different time as someone else, but that is kind of how it works. You're just going to keep playing this over and over, rolling the dice, placing them in, taking the bonuses. Again, this red arrow puts you up here. Skill shots are things where you can change the dice value. You also have where you can nudge the game table, and then based on the difference between the number of the two, you could tilt if it's too much. So that's how the game plays. It plays like a pinball game. You're going to keep rolling, keep riding, getting as many points as you can until you lose all 3 of your balls. And that's how the game plays.
So that is how you play. Now, here's the interesting thing. I really like this game. I'm going to tell you up front, Carla was a little bit more lukewarm on it, and I'll tell you why when we get to it in a minute. First of all, I love the way the game looks. I think it's a great example of art design and things making sense and choosing to make sense. All 4 boards look great. I love just the design and thought that went into them. You know, the tag team idea is great. Obviously, big fan of that. The car one, the racing one, but then just the cutesy one, the go for gold one. That's just fun. It reminds me of seeing old classic pinball games, and I love playing pinball if I can ever find one. I even bought the Oculus Star Wars Pinball VR game just to play pinball, so it's a blast. I love the kind of games. But the interesting thing, the interesting concept is slowing down time to where you're playing pinball really slowly to where you're playing it as a roll and write. Now granted, it is pretty fast, but I mean, pinball is split-second decisions, right? So all in all, the game is a roll and write, so you're not looking at the most exciting board presence, but it's one of the best looking roll and writes because all of the art is full blown and it looks like you're looking at a pinball table, not a chart and graph style that's a pinball table. And it looks like a pinball table, and I love that about it. So all the art looks great in this game. It's a great looking game to be a roll and write. I even like the dice. I think the dice look really great. How does the game play? So I think it's amazing how well it does. The idea of cascading down. You're coming down and then you hit the flippers, and the flippers can take you back all the way to the top, or maybe through a secret little place, or just like you would do on a regular pinball table. It absolutely feels like you're playing pinball, slowed down. Now here's where Carl and I differ. I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot, but she tends to think it feels a little bit tedious at times, that you do start getting to rote repeat. And again, that is kind of the idea of pinball, is you're doing the same things over and over to boost those scores, but to a point where it can become tedious, was kind of her concern with the game. And I can see where that would be a concern. Granted, I like that about it, the element that you're just trying to just maximize those scores. But at the end of the day, it's going to start feeling like math, the dice game, in which you're just trying to over and over and over again. And I get that's what any game is, but you don't want to look behind the curtain, right? You don't want to see how the magic trick is done. You want to just be wowed by it. And so there's a fine balance of that. And sometimes this one tiptoes up to that edge for me, and it crosses it for Carlos. So just so you know that ahead of time. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for a unique roll and write that does something different, this feels almost like a worker placement roll and write, in the sense that you have each of these 4 steps and you're placing it each time based on the dice, dice placement. So I like this game a lot. It's going to definitely stay in the collection. There's so much depth here and just beauty in all the different styles. I like how all the boards, they do the same kind of things, but they all play different. They all offer those bonuses and extra ways to play. If you have the original, should you get this one? Yeah, I would say so, only because the boards are different and they're fun, and you obviously want to play them over and over. So yeah, I would say definitely get both of these. And if you didn't play the first one, I would say go ahead and skip to this one, just because some of the new additions that this one adds. So big fan. I like this game a lot. It looks great. It plays great. Does have a tendency where if you're not careful, it can become the magic kind of gets pulled back, curtain pulled back, and you see how the nuts and bolts work a little too much, and that kind of can get dull at times. But at the end of the day, fun game, fun roll and write. So I'm Bryan Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Bryan. Until next time, we'll see you.